All right, so whether or not you're the type of person who has like a really big, large fragrance collection and you like to collect all of the like different flankers within a certain fragrance line, or if you're just someone who likes to smell good and you just kind of pick up fragrances kind of here and there, I would say it's always kind of important to sort of have fragrances that you can wear any time of the year, and that are really easy choices, you know, to kind of wear any time of the year, pretty much. So in this video, what I have 10 fragrances within my collection that I feel like are really good to be worn all year round, pretty much. All right. So just to get straight into the video, what I have here at the first fragrance is going to be Y.U.Z.U from Fragrance World. Now, I've seen different things about this fragrance. Some sites I've seen this listed as like a kind of like a mix between what is it, Guerlain's Frenchie or La Frenchie, or however you say it, and Imagination. I would say, at least with the Imagination comparison, I really don't get that from this fragrance at all. I mean, this definitely, it opens up with like a blast of like this sort of tart yuzu. So, I mean, you get that from the fragrance, but I would just say overall, this doesn't really smell like Imagination really at all at any point in time in the fragrance. But pretty much what this is like I said, this is like really tart citrus. So you get yuzu and lemon up top. This also, it has, I would say, like a really sort of green type of vibe to it, you know, hence the color of the juice. So it gives you this sort of green vibe to it. Like I said, tart citrus, which adds, you know, like a really nice freshness to the fragrance as well. And I would also say this kind of comes off as sort of like a, you know, like a fougere type of fragrance as well. So it kind of gives like a slightly sort of fresh barbershop type of feel to it. But I would say not really like how most traditional sort of fougere or barbershop fragrances come across. This, in my opinion, is like a really sort of modern and super updated, you know, version of what like a fougere fragrance could be. So overall, I really enjoy this one. This has very good longevity. It has, you know, beast mode projection, I would say, pretty much enough to cut through any sort of weather, whether it be winter, fall, spring, whatever. And I would just say probably in the summertime, you would want to maybe cut down on your sprays a little bit with this one, because it can become a little bit cloying in the summertime if you spray it too much. So I would say probably in the summertime, really about 3 sprays is probably all you need of this one. And it'll get you through the entire day, at least, you know, 10, 12 plus hours. So again, this one is going to be Y.U.Z.U from Fragrance World. All right, so next from Maison Alhambra, this is going to be their take on Tom Ford's Neroli Portofino, and this is going to be Porto Neroli. All right. So Porto Neroli, this is pretty much, this is for anyone that loves, you know, I would say like floral types of fragrances. This also, it has like a citrusy type of vibe to it as well. I would say citrusy and also slightly kind of on like the spicy side as well, is, you know, sort of what I get from this fragrance. This is a fragrance that, in my opinion, it does have enough strength to kind of be worn in the wintertime or even like the early spring. But it's still going to be light and fresh enough for you to kind of wear like in the summer and the early fall, I would say. So, I mean, I would say pretty much if you're someone that likes, you know, sort of, you know, aromatic floral types of scents, then this is absolutely going to be right up your alley. I would say this is like 100% unisex. I don't really see this leaning masculine or feminine either way. This is just a really an amazing fragrance. I would say it is more so, I would say, a fragrance that I would probably wear maybe a little bit more dressed up. So I would say this would be like a perfect kind of interview fragrance or like an office fragrance. But at the same time, this is still something that I think that you could still wear casually. I would just probably more so reach for this in more like dressed up sort of situations. All right. So again, this one is going to be Maison Alhambra's Porto Neroli. All right, so the next one is going to be from Lattafa, and this is going to be Lattafa's Fakhar Black. And this is pretty much, this is like a Y.U.Z.U EDP fragrance, or, you know, inspired by fragrance. Now, this isn't like exactly the same as Y.U.Z.U EDP. I would say Y.U.Z.U EDP is a little bit better. This one comes off as, I would say, a little bit more kind of Middle Eastern. So it definitely, in my opinion, has a little bit more spice than, you know, what the original does from Y.U.Z.U. And I mean, the one thing that I do like about this fragrance over the original Y.U.Z.U EDP is I don't go nose blind to this fragrance. For whatever reason, whenever I wore Y.U.Z.U, the EDP version anyway, I would always go nose blind to that after probably, I don't know, like 15 or 20 minutes or so. And it was just annoying because I liked the way that the fragrance smelled, but I never really could smell it like that. And I mean, it was definitely still there because I mean, I remembered giving people hugs with, you know, wearing that fragrance, and they said that they could smell it on their clothes after I gave them a hug, and I had had the fragrance on for a few hours at that point. So definitely the fragrance is a beast mode fragrance, Y.U.Z.U EDP. But for whatever reason, this one, it definitely, it doesn't make me go nose blind to it. I would say, with that being said, doesn't mean that this fragrance is like a super weak fragrance, because this is still going to get you at least 8 hours plus. But this just, at least for me, it works better in terms of my enjoyment as the wearer, you know, as far as me being able to smell the fragrance. All right. So definitely, if you're looking for like a super cheap alternative to Y.U.Z.U EDP, I would say definitely pick this one up. You can find this one typically for under $20, and this is for a 100 ml bottle. So I'll have links in the description to where you can purchase all of these fragrances. But definitely, like I said, this one goes for about $20. And again, this one is Lattafa's Fakhar Black. All right, so the next one on the list, this one, I would say I'm more so kind of reach for this one as like a summertime freshie. But this definitely, this has enough strength, I would say, that, you know, you could pretty much wear this any time of the year. This is going to be Hawas Ice from Versace. All right. So Hawas Ice, or even just the original Hawas, both fragrances are fragrances that are strong enough for you to wear, you know, in the wintertime when it's super cold outside, and, you know, they'll still sort of project and cut through that cold weather. But they're also fresh enough for you to still be able to wear, you know, in the summertime and not necessarily choke people out. Now, even though this is a super beast mode fragrance, this and the original Hawas, I mean, I never really felt like I was necessarily like choking my own self out or anyone else when wearing the two fragrances. Like I said, Hawas Ice and the original Hawas are easily, I would say, my most complimented fragrances that I've, you know, had in my collection. This particular fragrance here, I would say, has more of like a slightly sort of minty type of feel to the fragrance. So I would say that that would probably make it more kind of like summertime and warm weather appropriate. But like I said, either way, this one still, I would say, smells good even during this time of the year. Doesn't necessarily come off of my skin exactly the same as it does in the summertime. I feel like it smells a little bit better when it is, you know, warmer outside. But this is still a compliment getter even in the wintertime when you wear it. So definitely, I would say check this one out, either the Hawas Ice version or the original Hawas, just, you know, whichever one you're willing to pay for pretty much. This one is starting to come down in price considerably. I posted on my community tab, I would say probably about a week or two ago, this fragrance was being sold somewhere, I can't remember where, for about like $67 or something like that. So definitely a lot less than like the $100 or $110 that it had been at a lot of other sites. So definitely, again, check this one out. This is Hawas Ice from Versace. All right, so next one is going to be from the house of Chanel, and this is, I would say, probably one of my favorite fragrances just in general. And this is Bleu De Chanel Parfum, or I'm sorry, Eau de Parfum. The Eau de Parfum version, even though, in my opinion, the Parfum version, it does smell better just in terms of like the overall smell. This one definitely projects a lot better than what the Parfum version does. So I would say the Parfum version, in my opinion, is a slightly darker version, like a slightly darker, slightly more mature take on the scent profile. Whereas this one, you know, I feel like it's not as dark and it's not as tamed. So this one kind of lends itself to be worn, I would say, in more occasions. I would more so reach for Bleu de Chanel Eau de Parfum in the daytime, whereas with the Parfum version, I would more so maybe reach for that one, you know, just like at night. Close encounter situations, dates, stuff like that. That's more so where I would reach for the Parfum version. Whereas with the Bleu de Chanel Eau de Parfum, you know, I would wear this one, you know, going to work, running errands, really just doing anything, even just kind of casually just chilling at home. I would say this is more so what I would reach for in those types of situations for sure. All right. Now, the longevity on this isn't going to be as long as what the Parfum version is, but this is definitely, again, going to project a lot better than what the Parfum version does, you know, for sure. So again, this is going to be Bleu de Chanel Eau de Parfum. All right, so next on the list is, again, from the house of Lattafa. This one is going to be Qaed Al Fursan. All right, so I know most of you all are definitely familiar with Qaed Al Fursan. So this is going to be just a really sort of sweet, juicy pineapple mixed with saffron, pretty much. And it comes across as like this fresh, but at the same time spicy sort of scent. But this is definitely, it's fresh enough for you to wear in the summertime. I've worn this, you know, when it's been 110 degrees and it hasn't been anything that's been super cloying, at least to my nose anyway. But this is also still going to be something that I would say is going to be thick enough for you to wear in the wintertime as well. You know, with the spiciness from like the saffron that you get in this fragrance. So this is a good compliment getter as well, I would say, for sure. It's very versatile. I would say you can wear this one casually. You could wear this one dressed up. You could wear this one to the office. Doesn't really matter. I would say probably spray a little bit more in the winter and just spray a little bit less in the summertime. Or, you know, you could probably just get away with, I would say, no matter what the season was, I would say about 6 sprays should be about enough. You know, if you want to go a little bit heavier in the winter, you know, maybe do like 10 in the winter, and then maybe do like around 5 or 6, I guess, in the summertime. That would be okay. But either way, man, this is definitely suitable for all weather for the most part. And again, this is going to be Qaed Al Fursan from Lattafa. All right, so next up is going to be from Maison Alhambra, and this is going to be their take on Dior's Gris Dior. This is going to be Grise. All right. So I feel like for most people would probably consider this one to kind of more so be like I would say like a spring and fall type of fragrance. And I mean, I do slightly agree with that, but I do think that this at the same time is still fresh enough for you to be able to wear in the summertime. Now, obviously, you don't want to go too heavy with this because this does have like a very sort of prominent oak moss and patchouli note, you know, in this fragrance. But I feel like this is still going to be fresh enough for you to still be able to wear, you know, in the summertime. Now, obviously, I would more so recommend this, you know, for wear in the summertime if you're in a climate controlled environment. So like if you work in an office or something like that, I think there's really no problem with wearing this to the office in the summertime. But I would say if you're someone who, primarily works outside and you work outside in the summertime, then you could still wear this, but I would say you would go pretty light on the sprays with this. Like maybe 2-3 sprays max, I would say, would be what you would want to do with this fragrance in the summertime if you're going to be outside with it. But I mean, either way, like I said, again, this is still fresh enough with that, really sort of sparkly bergamot that you get in the fragrance, that I feel like it is still fresh enough for you to be able to wear pretty much all times of the year. And then I mean, definitely in the cooler months, this is going to be strong enough for it to still kind of project and cut through, like that cooler weather. And just the overall nature of this fragrance, it is, again, going to be, I would say, a little bit more so suited for like the cooler months. But again, I would say, with less sprays in the summertime, this would still be able to shine in that weather. So again, this is going to be Grise from Maison Alhambra. All right, so next one is going to be from the house of Giorgio Armani. And this one right now, it is discontinued, but this is going to be Acqua Di Gio Profumo. All right. So in my opinion, this is hands down the best Acqua Di Gio flanker that I've smelled anyway. Now, I mean, I haven't smelled all of them. I haven't smelled like Profondo Lights. I haven't smelled the original Y.U.Z.U. I haven't smelled the new, I believe it's the Parfum. So I haven't smelled those fragrances, but out of the ones that I have smelled, this is, I would say, hands down my favorite one. So this is definitely, it's a fresh fragrance that, you absolutely can wear in the summertime, but this also, it has heavier, darker notes in the fragrance as well that lend this to be worn, I would say, pretty much all year round and still have good performance all year round. So this does have, incense in the fragrance. It has patchouli, frankincense. So it has sort of like a smoky kind of incensey type of vibe to the fragrance, while at the same time being fresh and aquatic at the same time. All right. So it projects like a beast, especially if you can get a older version with the magnetic cap, like how this one has. The newer version of the fragrance with like the snap-on cap, I do feel like is a little bit weaker when it comes to like the projection and just how heavy like the incense note is. Some of you may prefer that sort of lighter, incense, take on the fragrance. I actually prefer the sort of heavier, darker version of it. So definitely, I would say if you can still find like a older, I would say I believe like 2017 version of the fragrance, then I would say definitely, pick that up. I believe it's like pre-2017, pre-2018, something like that. But if not, definitely either go with the Parfum version, the Acqua Di Gio Parfum, which is like the newest one that they've released. From what I understand, that one does smell a lot like this fragrance. Or, you can definitely try to look for like a snap-on cap version of Acqua Di Gio Profumo. I know the prices for those are kind of all over the place. The last one that I bought, which was like the big 4.2 ounce bottle, I got that one off of Amazon for like $130. I don't know what they're going for now, but pretty much I believe you can still find those bottles out there. So if you're looking for Profumo, definitely check that out. But again, this one, in my opinion, can be worn all year round for sure. Again, this is Acqua Di Gio Profumo. All right, and then this is going to be one of my, I would say, latest pickups, and this is going to be Valentino Born in Roma Intense. All right, so the reason why I have this one on the list over Coral Fantasy is, even though Coral Fantasy, in my opinion, it does project a little bit more than what this one does. This one, just the scent profile in general, I think kind of lends this one to be a little bit more sort of all year round. This one has notes of lavender in it. It has a slight sort of vanilla, note to it as well. But I would say the vanilla is not really too prominent in this one. You more so kind of get that sort of fresh lavender with this one. So it does come off as being a fresh fragrance that, you could definitely still wear, I would say, in the summertime. You would just probably want to go a little bit lighter on the sprays with this one in the summertime. But this also still has enough strength to where it is going to give you pretty good projection and longevity also in the winter and like the fall months as well. I would say this one also has very good longevity. So the longevity on this one is going to be a little bit better, at least off of my skin, than what the Coral Fantasy does. And I mean, that makes sense because this one is an eau de parfum. The Coral Fantasy is eau de toilette. That doesn't necessarily always translate into better longevity with having the higher concentration, but at least on me, this lasts a little bit longer than what Coral Fantasy does. And like I said, at least in my opinion, this does kind of give you like a all year round type of feel. At least in my opinion anyway. So again, this one is going to be Valentino Born in Roma Intense. All right, and then the last fragrance that I have on the list, this is going to be Fragrance World's take on Invictus Legend, and this is Invicto Legend. All right, so Invicto Legend, like I mentioned before in the previous video where I compared this to Invictus Legend, this is, this is a very, very close clone of Invictus Legend. Definitely I got some slight sort of differences with the strength of certain notes especially within the opening of the two fragrances. But outside of that, these are the same fragrance for the most part. And this is still a beast mode fragrance for sure. When you spray this is a room filler, and it does have incredible sillage. You can walk into a room, walk out, and then if you walk back into that room 5 minutes later, you can still kind of smell your scent trail. So it is a very, very good, projecting, fragrance, and has very good sillage as well. And just the overall sort of scent profile on this, even though it is sort of like a fresh sort of aquatic type of fragrance, it does also kind of have, some density to it as well. So this one, I would say, is definitely going to be a fragrance that you can wear in the summertime, but you can also sort of wear in the wintertime when you don't necessarily want to wear kind of like heavier, sweeter sort of fragrances, and you still want to have like a fresh sort of feel to you. I would say this is definitely going to be a fragrance that you would want to reach for if you still want to kind of have like a aquatic sort of fresh feel for that particular day. This is absolutely going to be what you want to wear. So again, this is going to be Invicto Legend from Fragrance World. So that's it, man. That's the list. This is the list of 10 fragrances that I have in my collection that I think are appropriate for all year round. Let me know what you all think about the list. Do you all have any of these fragrances? Do you have all of them? And of the ones that you do have, do you agree with my assessment that all of these fragrances pretty much, are all pretty much year-round appropriate, and really perform pretty well, at really any time of the year for the most part. All right. So let me know in the comments. Also, if you're brand new to the channel, do me a favor, go ahead and subscribe. And to anyone watching, do me a favor, go ahead and like the video. And again, that's Jamar from Vegas Scents. I'll see y'all in the next video.